It is Barbenheimer Day, or hopefully it will be when this goes out. I hopefully get it edited on time. I love Greta Gerwig. Lady Bird is my favourite film, okay? And I feel like Greta Gerwig gets it in a way many writers or directors simply can't. There is an upbeat and fun energy that pairs with the emotional moments in her work that resonates with me more than any other work that I've ever seen or read. So today I thought I would read some of her favourite books to see what she resonates with and is perhaps influenced by. So I'm going to be reading The Idiot, The Argonauts, and To the Lighthouse. So The Idiot was already on my TBR, so I was glad to have a really good reason to finally read this. And this is about a Turkish student at Harvard and her email relationship with another student at the university. And this is set around the same time that email first started existing, so that's going to be an interesting thing considering it's so focused on email. I love reading about college. It's such a distinct time in your life, but I don't feel like there's enough media considering so many people do actually go to uni, set in that time period basically. So I'm really excited to pick it up because of that. So the second book I will be reading is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. So this is about a family's trip to Scotland, and it revolves around the relationships and dynamics of the family members, particularly the mother and the father in the family. So focusing predominantly on their individual thoughts and experiences. I'm curious to read this because I want to read more Virginia Woolf. So she's a literary great, and I want to be part of the band, But I really didn't like Mrs. Dalloway, so I'm a little bit cautious about having to read this. I don't know if I'm going to massively like it, but I want to like it. And the third thing I'm going to be reading is The Argonauts by Megan Nelson. I think this is a memoir that explores the author's relationship with her partner, and basically it's a combination of personal anecdotes and critical theory. I don't know how to feel about this because I've seen such mixed reactions to both this book and Maggie Nelson in general. Plus, I'm not sure how I feel about essay collections. I guess it's not technically considered an essay collection, but sometimes I do think that essay collections kind of get away from themselves, and I'm not a particularly massive fan of that kind of writing. Today, but I'm going to see Frozen today, which is fun, and Bobby tomorrow. Oh my god, this is just so much fun. This is so much fun, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about Frozen though, because I don't particularly want to see Frozen. Frozen's not one of those musicals where I'm I need to go see Frozen on the West End, but my friend wanted to see it. It's her birthday present, and she really wanted to see a musical where she knew all of the songs. And I'm I don't know why, but I've never really felt that when I want to watch a musical. But interesting. That's an interesting thing to want, I guess. I've never been I need to know all the songs. Except Hamilton, I've never actually known any of the songs for all of the musical, basically. When I saw Wicked, I only knew popular. And that's because of the Ariana Grande song. I'm editing this video on Barbenheimer Day, so it is currently Barbenheimer Day, and I look exactly the same as the other day. I don't know, let me try to change it up. I am wearing the same pajamas because what do I have to change for? I am unemployed. But yeah, the weather looks so bad today. I'm actually so depressed about the weather. It's meant to be sunny. It's summer and it's been sunny the whole week. It's Barbenheimer Day, and it's decided, I don't know, this was not a better look, to be fair. And it's cloudy and shit, and I hope it gets sunny, and it's really not. It's already 1 o'clock. I can't believe it's gonna be horrible on Barbenheimer Day. This is very Oppenheimer weather, but Barbie. I tried my hardest to find things that were pink to wear for this video, considering it's the Greta Gerwig video, it's coming out when Barbie comes out, so it's pink. Apparently I don't own anything pink that's either not disgusting or needs a strapless bra to wear, so bit of an issue. So I'm wearing athleisure. I think it's pretty good though. I think this colour, I feel is very Barbie pink. It's like a hot pink. I'm reconsidering whether or not I should wear this to Barbenheimer. I probably won't, because this is a top that you go to the gym in. But my top that I want to wear to Barbenheimer, I cannot find, so we'll have to work on that, guys. The first thing that I read was The Idiot, and I'm not sure I read The Idiot in the way that I was supposed to, in that I read this all in one day, but the book is structured over like a year's time. So I think I should have perhaps put this down and picked this up over a period of time instead of what I did. But I simply like cannot read a literary novel in this way. Like, I always read it in one go. So this book follows Selin, who is writing emails to Ivan, a boy from her Russian class that she kind of like develops a crush on over the course of the academic year. And basically this follows the friendship, the email relationship that they create with each other. And half the book is spent at Harvard and the other half is set in Hungary during the summer break of her freshman year. So Selin goes to Hungary, where Ivan is from, to teach English to farmers in a small village. He does not live in this village, she just goes there anyway. So Selin is somebody who is far from idiotic, even though it's called The Idiot, but she feels kind of like disorientated by being sort of like unremarkable now that she's gone to university in a place where there's loads of remarkable people, instead of sort of being like a high achiever that she perhaps was in high school. Selin kind of never knows what she's doing. Like, a lot of her decisions, like learning Russian or teaching ECL, it's definitely ESL, English as a second language, that's it, are almost basically always made at random. Like, all of her decisions are at random because she kind of has a little idea of what path she wants to take in life. And so she's very like precisely a freshman. Like, she's a very like perfect mix of like naive, book smart, rebellious, but also conformist at the same time. And I think generally the book serves as a very like fascinating time capsule of that time in the 90s. And, you know, not just because I didn't really like know what the college in the 90s was like, I found myself feeling very like I didn't know what was happening in this book. Like, I felt really dumb reading this. Like, Selin's best friend in this book, Svetlana, keeps saying that Selin makes aesthetic-based decisions. She says this several times throughout the book, and I have no idea what this means, because she didn't mean like the physical aesthetic appeal of things, because that's not what Selin was making decisions based on. Like that's got nothing to do with anything. So I was like so confused. I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? But I also saw, after I read it, I read Roxane Gay's Goodreads review. She wrote on Goodreads like a small paragraph, and she said that she found things in this book confusing as well. So that like placated me a little bit, because, you know, if she doesn't understand things, I'm not going to understand things, you know? Overall, I think this is a very like intense, character-focused coming-of-age story about freshman year. And even if not everything about this was like very engaging, even if not, yeah, that kind of makes sense, I think. It definitely felt like a very poignant story. I highlighted lots of lines. I read it on my phone, like I didn't read this as I found this really poignant. I highlighted lots of lines, and the ideas imbued within the narrative were very personal to me as someone who still feels kind of lost. Not lost like her though, she was like a freshman in Harvard and I am a graduate, and it's been a year since I graduated and I don't have a job. I'm like, oh my god, okay, lost in life, you know. So the second thing that I read, not the fourth, the second, was The Light to the Lighthouse, not The Lighthouse. Good movie though. To the Lighthouse was this like such a like a long read for me, okay? Like, not in the actual length, it's only like 200 pages, but I did not connect to this book like at all. I felt like all of the thoughts and stream of consciousness-esque vibe was fine, but there's like no moderation to it. I know that Woolf is kind of like the pioneer of this kind of writing, which is fascinating as part of like the history of literature, but it's undoubtedly not for me. The book is split between the war. So there's the pre-war parts of the book, which were, in my opinion, incredibly dense and predominantly boring. And then there's like the second half. So many like small things were described in this story. And whilst I agree this definitely like emphasizes like the inner life and workings of a character to show like what they're like and what they appreciate, as a reader, it's very boring, I think. The second half is better in this regard. Like, the plot feels much more significant in this one, and it happens kind of in direct response to the themes and ideas of the first half. So the characters' opinions and their detailed thoughts feel more warranted, especially given the situation that they're in, which is like they're in a boat for the whole time, so they don't really have much plot to go through, so opinions make sense. Also, because the second half slips through perspectives in a much more coherent way. So the first half is very confusing when considering perspectives, and sometimes you struggle to distinguish which voice you're reading. Like, the characters themselves do not feel boring. Like, they're very exciting. Like, the older woman protagonist who's like constantly referred to as like beautiful, but not in like a lustful MILF way, like a simple regard of that fact way, is quite compelling. And so is her husband, who's constantly obsessed with like his own work and its legacy that it will leave. I think both of them are very well written, yet I think like the slow, simple plot of this book doesn't make me appreciate the book to the extent that I perhaps want to. And I feel like, unfortunately, my journey with Virginia Woolf is done here. Like, I think the perspectives were hard, it was just hard to read, so many thoughts, and it didn't really kick into gear until we were like so far into the book. So I just feel like I'm gonna have to end it here, especially since I didn't like Mrs. Dalloway either. But it's really sad because I feel like I want to be somebody who likes Virginia Woolf. I just don't think I'm that girl. So thirdly, we have the Argonauts. I read the Guardian review on the Argonauts to see what the consensus was after I read it, because I like reading a critic review from time to time, okay? And the writer describes this as, right, following the falling in love and the maintaining of affection, devotion, and tenderness. Okay, it is about love and marriage, motherhood, pregnancy, birth, and family making. And because it is a book by Maggie Nelson, it turns every one of these concepts on its head. Okay, this is what the writer of the article said. I've never read any other Maggie Nelson, so I can't confirm that last line, but I do think those things are correct, especially the first half of that quote. The novel presents itself, I think, as like a cross between like a memoir and an essay. So it's like a foray into her life, but it kind of like remains steady so that it's able to talk about politics and theory without like veering away. And it has like a particular focus on like boundaries and opposites. I think like she seems to want to like peel them open to see what these binaries kind of mean. So like ideas like birth and death are like purposefully put together to be like examined by her. And a lot of this book is, you know, around the relationship with her partner who's trans, and sort of like the domestic dramas that like surround them and like create their life basically together. When I was like consuming this, I listened and I read this together on Libby. So again, I read this on my phone. I have a physical copy of this, I just don't know where it is. And I'm still not sure actually where I stand on essays. American essay collections confuse me. An essay in England is not exactly what I think it means to be an essay in literary circles. Like every time there's no clear conclusion, there's no thematic points addressed when writing an essay in this way, or basically in any way, like an essay in any way outside of like an essay in a literary journal-esque essay way, like the type that you would write for like uni or an English class. I always feel like otherwise I'm reading a memoir. I don't understand what I'm reading otherwise. Like I'm not sure where this book fits into all of that, and this is a memoir by publishing standards, but then the book feels like and reads like other essay collections like The White Album by like Joan Didion. So am I just dumb? Like I don't understand where this is placed, you know? Overall though, it's a profound piece of work that wants to look at society through the sense of self, which definitely feels like a Greta Gerwig-ass opinion, you know? So, you know, it's all coming together. A major thing that I have learnt about Greta Gerwig through her taste in books is something that's like very abundant in her work, and that is that she cares very deeply about the inner life of her characters and how the inner life sort of manifests itself into the characters' like outer lives. I don't want to say that sounds gross, but you know, like the way that they live, like the slow pace of the books as they traverse a very specific period in the people's characters' lives while having a very personalised, useful energy to them is very apparent in work like Lady Bird, Frances Ha, Vessel Women, even Miss America. I think she helped write that. It's very much like the idea of infusing personality, whatever personality that might be for each character, into like the relentless pace of everyday living, which feels like something that Greta Gerwig really excels at. Like I always feel really sucker punched by the reality of life, not just anyone's life, like my life in her work. But, you know, I relate really closely to all of her work. And her taste in books, I think, directly reflects the type of Bildungsroman, I have no idea how to say that word, like that word for like coming of age narrative. Like it has that in all of her work. That's what I felt like was in the books, and I feel like that's really much what's in her work. I felt the fears and the fun moments of living in these books, which I can also sense in her own work, which I will say I still think is better than anything that I read for this. I love her work more than anything. Like she's one of my favourite writers of all time, you know? Which does like leave me very excited and curious to see how this will manifest itself in a corporate studio film like Barbie. So yeah, I am very excited to re-watch that. Thank you for watching this. go watch Barbie, go watch Oppenheimer, have a great day, and have a great Barbenheimer, guys.